Hi, everyone. This is Kodie. Just want to give a quick update before we dive into the main portion of the episode for today. But we recorded this episode on Sunday, September 21st, and we talk a bit about Jimmy Kimmel and him being pulled off the air. And as of Monday, September 22nd, there are reports that Jimmy Kimmel is going to be back on the air as of Tuesday, that Disney is going to be pulling him back in. So just want to provide that update before we go into the episode. Otherwise, we got a little bit of outdated information. All right, on to the episode. Welcome to Propaganda Loves You, the show that asks and answers the question, which federal official swapped their American flag lapel for a gold Trump face pin? And how is that enabling them to rewrite the First Amendment? I'm Kodie, your host this week, joined by Arthur.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
So, Arthur, we talked on Tuesday. When was the recording for Tuesday? It was like last Saturday or Sunday, right? That had to be.
Wow, really?
I gotta look at my calendar here. Okay, so that would have been like the 13th or the 14th, I think, was the last time we recorded. And nothing's happened, right? Like, I don't know about you. Oh, I don't even know where to start today, honestly. Welcome to Propaganda Loves You, our Tuesday core episode. It's just Arthur and I here today. So doing a bit of a catch-up episode with everything that's happened over the last, since the 14th, since our last Core Tuesday episode. I'm just going to kind of like list a bunch of stuff off the top of my head that I think I remember happening in this time frame, but you could tell me if I've imagined it or if you remember it happening too. So starting with, I think this happened like right after our recording, but I don't think this had happened last time we talked, but the Vice President of the United States hosted a podcast. It was Charlie Kirk's podcast, the first one that would have run posthumously after he was assassinated. He had Stephen Miller on with him as a guest. We have also struck another 3 Venezuelan ships, I believe. We're up to 4 now off the coast of Venezuela. The president has declared Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. Jimmy Kimmel was pulled off the air for his comments about Charlie Kirk. And what else has happened? I think that's it.
I feel like there was something.
Well, this is kind of like part of the Kimmel thing, but then the president basically coming out and saying that anything that's negative of him is not protected speech or is not free speech.
Not free speech anymore.
Right. That was we misinterpreted that for the last 250 years. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah, last time we spoke, it was like the Fourth Amendment was out the window for search and seizure, and now it's the First Amendment. It's really dangerous around this First Amendment stuff. They are really trying to say it's not the most important amendment. It's not, guaranteed. It's not free speech anymore.
Yeah, and talking about hate speech, which is interesting. What hate counts or what is determined to be hate speech? Who has that ability, I guess, to decide what that is?
And I think something relevant to both you and I, since we both work in like this kind of like, I work like tech adjacent, you work more tech, but like the whole H-1B stuff that's happening right now with Trump trying to charge $100,000 per H-1B annually. Unless it's like, but there's something in there about the executive branch can, at their own whim, decide which company doesn't have to pay.
Of course. So that just turns into another, $1 million donation to whatever Trump frickin' something or other, and then that company doesn't have to pay the H-1B visa.
Yeah, Trump University is about to get a lot of donations.
Is it back? Oh, man, it probably... I just wait for him to like start going through all of the old like things that he's lost and like trying to relitigate like super old like lawsuits or anything or bankruptcies. Anyway, yeah. Well, before we get too deep into some of these topics, I did have an update. You mentioned work in tech sector. So I guess big update is I'm done. I'm done and I'm unemployed now.
Wow, congrats.
Thanks. Yeah. It's an interesting spot to be in. I haven't actually been unemployed since, I don't know, I think I've had a job or I was in college since I was 14. So now, got over 20, 24, 23 years, something like that since then that I've held some sort of job or whatnot.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I do. I know what I'm going to do. I don't know if it's going to work. So just for the listeners, I was working at Microsoft. That's the job that I've held for the last 3 years after I left the government. I was working for them, working in the support space, kind of like the support tooling that Microsoft uses, and working with how we're going to integrate AI into kind of like support and stuff like that. So I decided to leave that job back in January when we started talking about doing this podcast and trying to do this full time. And that has finally come to pass. So I'm out of the tech sector, working in this podcast is my only job at the moment. I've got other things that I'm going to be doing, but I think I wanted to reflect a little bit on the tech industry, or at least how I felt about it over the last 3 years. It's nothing crazy, but when I started, I only applied to a couple different places when I decided to leave the government. One was the content moderation at Twitter. I think I mentioned that. And then at Microsoft for a couple different positions there. And so Microsoft was the one that worked out. The reason that I had picked Microsoft initially, well, the reason I picked those two things, one, the Twitter, the content moderation seemed like it aligned more with what I was doing previously, at least as far as trying to find extremism and how do you identify that and how do you combat that. So that's why I was interested in that. And then I was interested in Microsoft because Microsoft, I never felt like Microsoft was one of those companies that was really out to get you, if that makes sense. Google, how do they make money? They make money by selling people's data and search data. Same thing with Facebook,
Definitely.
right? People are the product. I've always felt like Microsoft, at least they have a product that they're selling. You're not necessarily the product. They're very diversified in a lot of different things. So that's why I decided to work for them in the first place. But even though the 3 years that I was there, I saw quite a bit of change. When I showed up, everyone kind of said it was a lot different than the Steve Ballmer days, with Satya Nadella, the CEO for Microsoft, really kind of changed the culture and made it more people focused. Let's make sure our people are getting taken care of and then they will contribute more to the product. But I really over the last 3 years, I feel like that's kind of changed. It's all about the AI integration, right? And less about the people. And yeah, I don't know. It just felt very different on the way out than when I initially started at Microsoft, much more competitive and a bit more, I don't know, cutthroat's the right word, but it was not the same environment, I would say. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if you working in the recruiting space, do you feel like people do they even talk about that? When you're probably not, right?
Yeah.
You hear
No,
about
definitely.
yeah.
People share their experiences of why they leave jobs, why they move on, their history, what teams were their favorite and least favorite stuff. And yeah, I don't know. In the last few years, it's I mean, as listeners know, I'm sure the job sector is not hot,
Yeah.
the not hot.
Yeah.
Trump is actively firing and making sure people are getting the numbers correct about the jobs, which is a huge red flag. And
Yeah.
it just seems very bleak.
Yeah.
But Microsoft itself, I've noticed I work in kind of gaming space, and Microsoft has purchased a lot of studios. They had this Perfect Dark game that was coming out. They of course bought Blizzard around 2021, 2022, and a bunch of other studios, and they have just the dominoes of closing them has gone down it's just horrible.
It's I don't know. Obviously, that was my first foray into the real commercial tech sector, at least the top tier of the tech sector, I guess. And the people were the best part, right? When I decided that I was going to leave back in January or whatever of this year and started kind of working my way towards that, worked with my manager there and very helpful and making that transition. But there were certain things that happened on the way out the door that made me feel more comfortable in my decision to leave. It was definitely the right time. I think the big one that was happened right after I make the decision to leave was when Microsoft donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration, right? All the tech companies were doing it, dropping millions of dollars here for a seat at the table, right? And I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get why they feel like they need to do that, right? Because they feel like that's what you need to do to play today. But I guess when I started seeing that and the capitulation and like dropping of certain programs, watching them kind of capitulate to the demands of the administration and like, putting money in just to like have a seat at the table and talk about this and not standing up to any principles that, they had espoused, Microsoft had. Like they had a huge diversity, equity, inclusion. They like really talked about how, you need diversity in your teams and your workplace in order to get the best product. But I think what it shows again to me is just like the bottom line is the most important thing. And the companies are going to do whatever they need to in order to protect, it made me think about that documentary that we had talked about a little bit, The Social Dilemma. And there was a point in The Social Dilemma where they're asking like these guys like, well, what's the issue? Like, what is it? What's the problem here? Like, you've got all these very smart people working at these tech companies that they want to do good and they want to do all these things, but they're building these algorithms that are pushing hate, right?
Yeah.
And
100%. Yeah.
yeah. And so like it's profit. It's the profit motive. That's what does, like, it just was so strange to me. Like that it seems so obvious, like what it is that is like driving this and like what people, and yet we can't seem to stop it. And so it just reminded me of that. It's like this institution that's just driven by this profit motive. And so they're going to capitulate because they're afraid that they're going to spend maybe millions of dollars like in lawsuits.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that resonates with you at all, but like, I guess like those things made my decision a bit easier.
No, that totally makes sense. It's kind of, it reminds me when you're talking about that of like Pride Month, where they all put up the rainbow flag on their Twitters and then they're actively spending money to dismantle some of these things. Like the veil of capitalism comes off.
Yeah.
Abhorrent.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. They all pretend it's like virtue ethics or so, Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's something that really, like, I think that most people on the left and honestly most people on the right hand side of politics would probably agree on, like the whole virtue signaling, like, because I mean I know that was a huge thing for the MAGA crowd and just more traditional conservatives. Like I always feel like this is in my face all the time. It's like being pushed, and it's like, well, it's companies that are pushing this because they think they can make a profit or they can pander to people, and then people are going to buy it. So like unintentionally, or I mean, I think unintentionally making things worse like by doing it. But
it works. They've done it.
Yeah.
It's profitable, I guess. Yeah.
Please stay tuned for a word from our sponsors.
Our nation's security is paramount, and sometimes that requires advanced infrastructure. But what about the delicate balance of our natural world? ClearSight Technologies believes we can have both.
We needed a solution that maintained our robust perimeter defenses while addressing mounting environmental concerns. The human barrier system is truly groundbreaking. It integrates seamlessly with our existing security networks.
Our system employs advanced AI-powered sensor arrays to identify and track all activity near enhanced security perimeters. Our predictive algorithms then activate the proper protocols for cavemen, cats, criminals, or whatever else comes our way. It's precision ecological management.
Imagine a truly intelligent border. Animals moving freely, efficiently, and safely, just as God intended, without compromising the safety of our homegrown citizens.
It's a testament to innovation. We've seen a significant reduction in unfortunate wildlife incidents while maintaining absolute integrity of our sovereign lines.
And for any larger, more unpredictable movements detected in proximity to the perimeter, the system's enhanced non-wildlife discretionary subroutines are immediately activated, ensuring all unauthorized entities are appropriately managed.
The human barrier system. Protection, precision, progress. ClearSight Technologies. Seeing the future, securing the present.
ClearSight Technologies is not responsible for any incidents that are not related to the welfare of native wildlife.
So like going back to what we were talking about at the top of this, that also goes into like the whole ABC thing, right? And firing Jimmy Kimmel for comments around Charlie Kirk. And again, this all like it's, bending to pressure from the FCC, which is Brendan Carr, who's doing exactly what Trump, wants him to do. Do you remember the this is the same guy that wears the Trump pin instead of a flag
yeah,
pin, like the gold
pin. Yeah.
the
The
gold Trump
face
pin.
of father.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the FCC guy capitulating to that because they're afraid of getting bogged down in some sort of legal lawsuit. And then they start seeing like money loss from people leaving Disney Plus and Disney seeing money loss because of the Jimmy Fallon thing. Now they're worried about that. It's like, oh no, did we make the right decision?
Did you hear the actual like Jimmy Kimmel quotes that he was saying that were supposedly the reason? Yeah, it was like a nothing burger. It was like the tamest thing I've heard yet about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, I think what he said was something to the effect of an insinuation that we don't even know who the shooter was. That was what he was talking about, right? Like you said, like could be a MAGA guy or something like that. He wasn't even, I don't think he quoted Charlie Kirk, really even said anything about Kirk himself,
Yeah, I don't think he really
right?
did.
Yeah. It was just insinuating that the shooter was MAGA, and that was enough, apparently. Yeah. What they're using like Charlie Kirk's death for is something else. It's exactly what I thought they were going to do, or exactly what I
Canonize
felt
the
like was
poster
going to
boy.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just use this as the rallying cry, like to get people to forget about like the Epstein files are still not released. That was another thing that happened. The whole Kash Patel, his Senate hearings or Congress hearings that he had like back to back, where he contradicted himself like in the same meeting, saying that he hadn't read all the files and yet Donald Trump was not in it. There's absolutely no proof of anyone being trafficked.
That whole hearing, like, I don't want to get directly put on any lists, but that whole hearing showed that he is so unfit for that role. He's never even served in the FBI, and everybody who called him out and like directly put facts behind their logic and reasoning, Kash Patel did not answer anybody. He lied. It's like obviously a conspiracy theory cover-up kind of thing. I mean, that would get proven, I think. It's ridiculous.
I think the conspiracy theory cover-up here is that he's just really bad at his job. He's just
That's why
trying
they
to-
chose him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to pick the person that writes the children's book about you to be your FBI director. That's the only way. I want to talk about the Charlie Kirk thing a little bit more. Did you watch the JD Vance podcast or Kirk's last
I did
one?
see a lot of it. Yeah. I don't think I
Yeah.
watched the whole thing, but I watched a lot of it.
Yeah. What did Miller say? I think he said like they're going to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks, talking about essentially any democratic like fundraising apparatuses, like the groups that they're talking about. So they're talking about like, was it the Ford Foundation, Open Society, or some foundations, I think was another one.
Yeah.
I don't remember if the ACLU was part of that or not, but the Southern Poverty Law Center, I think, was one that they have talked about targeting as well. And all of this is related to Trump's designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization. The thing that they're trying to do here is they're trying to take that designation and then trying to be able to tie back that to pretty much anyone that funds any kind of protest or any dissent, essentially, right? You can just label any dissenter as Antifa or supporting Antifa and then go after them financially, legally, like whatever methods you have available. It seems like that's what they're trying to kind of use this to do, to really basically go after all of their political enemies for the most part, and any method by which the left has to dissent or voice opinion through protest, through whatever, right? Like it really feels like that's the goal here based off of this.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to have a real chilling effect on protests. It's classification of an ideology that is not a centralized organization by any means, and it literally just stands for anti-fascism. So all of our grandparents were hopefully Antifa, and
Mine was, for sure.
yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Yeah, it's classic state propaganda. And
Yeah.
again, it's
And-
like it's totally like the dominoes of what you're talking about, where it's like the whole Epstein stuff. Like you don't want to release the fact that father has been with little children. So Charlie Kirk didn't work. Now it's Antifa. Now it's going to be like H-1B visas. Then it's just going to continue on.
Another thing that I didn't remember to mention, Trump is saying we're going to go back to Afghanistan. He wants to take over Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, go back to Bagram. Like,
Oh,
Venezuela is not enough. We need to be actively pushing on Venezuela and then also back into Afghanistan. I don't know how that's going to fly. Like the whole Bagram, like I think he was trying to say something like, its proximity to China is a concern or something like that, which to be honest, like we knew that like when we pulled out. So like nothing changed there. But yeah, just another crazy thing. And I think like the other thing about what they're doing with Kirk here that's really nefarious is like, I don't know, it feels like slimy is the best thing I can describe it as. I'll think of a better word, but like the whole basically, trying to say like if people are talking shit about him, and talking shit can be defined very loosely, clearly based off of, what occurred with Jimmy Kimmel, then they're going to go after them. They're going to target them, right? They're going to call this hate speech and they're going to go after them, according to Pam Bondi and what she said in that interview. But I also feel like everything they're doing when it comes to like having the moment of silence, and now like we're going to have a Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, apparently, like they're passing this through Congress.
Yeah.
I feel like they're doing it to instigate people to have a reaction. Like, and then they use that reaction to arrest people. Like, I mean, this is just conspiracy stuff coming off my hip, but that's just what it feels like watching this happen. I think who's going the farthest with this, at least I think as far as I've seen so far, is, well, the whole National Day of Remembrance is pretty ridiculous in my mind, but Oklahoma is now like trying to pass legislation.
Right.
Do you see that? That it will compel schools like colleges in Oklahoma to create a Charlie Kirk memorial statue and like plaza, and also have ways to ensure that it can't be like defaced, or they will face, I think it's like a financial penalty from the state. Like they won't receive like a percentage of their state funding.
Oklahoma's always the state to do this stuff. Their education system is problematic.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like put that nicely. Yeah.
Well, it's like the whoever I don't even know what they call them, like principal, superintendent, or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like superintendent of schools or something like that. Is the same guy that did the Trump Bibles. Like we had to order Trump Bibles, and then
And the January 6th stuff, like they have to teach that January 6th was like
oh
not,
yeah,
yeah.
this is all that same guy,
He'll probably be running for VP in like a few years.
Ryan Walters. Yeah, that's the guy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, just so much craziness that he's done for Oklahoma. One of the 15 states that we do not have a download in, by the way. There's only 15 of them out there. We got another one this last week, so North Dakota's done, but South Dakota, we're still missing that in Oklahoma. The other thing that Trump was saying about this designation of Antifa, which made me laugh, was that they're going to use like RICO to go after like the funding mechanisms. They're going to try and do a RICO, which is Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, I think is the RICO. But basically it was a way to take down connected organizations, like mob organizations. It's like where this came from, right? And it was actually used against Donald Trump, which is why I thought this was funny. Like this is one of the things that he was getting charged with in Georgia. So now he's yeah. He wasn't going to come up with that himself, right? But yeah, so that against like George Soros and some other places. Yeah, there's a lot of pushback on this, obviously. And what is interesting is within the right, there's not alignment on this. I don't know if you've seen from like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson of all people. Like actually, and who was the other one that surprised me? Ted Cruz like came out and talked about how like going after hate speech or labeling hate speech and trying to go after that. And so did Ben Shapiro. Like all these guys are coming out. And yeah, Ben Shapiro said it because his argument was like, eventually the Democrats will be in charge again and they'll use the same techniques, which made me laugh because Democrats would never do that. Just not because like, because it would be wrong or like, what's the word? It wouldn't be a right decorum or something. I don't know. But yeah, interesting that not everybody is kind of aligned there, for at least on the right hand side for that one.
Do you think we'll see is it Erica Kirk? What's his wife? What was his wife's name?
Oh yeah, she actually did do something. She basically did like a speech. Yeah. Did you watch it?
I watched like 7 minutes of it was like 20 something minutes or something.
Yeah. What'd you think?
But I saw that she's like the turning point. She was appointed CEO. I'm wondering, presidential bid again. Erica's going to get it at some year, I guess.
Maybe. Who knows?
To me, it seemed like maybe she didn't write that speech and maybe it was like prepped for her and it was a little strange. It really was a bizarre speech. And yeah, it highlighted like, they're like, oh, Charlie loved people talking to him and engaging in discourse and dialogue. It's like that guy shouted over everybody. It just like wanted confrontation from everybody. That's how he made money. Fear.
Yeah. Yeah, the immediate rewrite of his history that they're trying to pull right now. I think AOC did a pretty good job kind of like
Yeah,
walking
definitely.
through that on the floor if you saw her comments there. But yeah, it's just crazy. It's like, I think someone was saying like that he was their nice guy that was there to debate. It's like he was never, if you watched his debates, they're not debates. It's just like using whatever logical fallacies or false arguments or straw man. He was really good at winning an argument, but I don't think it was ever actually a debate.
Definitely. Some of it too is like, it's like some YouTuber crap where it's either editing or like it's somebody in the audience gets a mic for 10 seconds and then you can't actually respond to the guy at all. And so, yeah, there's no discourse actually happening. It's not even like an intellectual argument. It's just, yeah, he's just winning the argument and claiming to have won the argument, I guess, and then editing it to appear so.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's just like that blows my mind and I think that's kind of the point of trying to rewrite his history again as a method of forcing people to have conversations like you and I are having right now, and then using those conversations against people, like, or using those comments against people. And totally, like, I don't think you should be on social media celebrating anyone's death. That's probably not a good idea. Like, it's not good for your mental health. It's not good for anyone else that sees it. Like, I don't think there's no need for that. Like, I don't know. So maybe don't, I guess, is what I'm saying. But you still need to be able to have conversations about how people are using whatever narrative around Charlie's assassination, right? Like, to their benefit. Because that's really what it is. There's just using his death to push their agenda.
I was going to say squash the First Amendment, but yeah.
Yeah. Squash the First Amendment. That's a pretty good way to look at it. Which is even more ironic given that, like, his whole thing was like he can say whatever he wants, right? Like, because he's protected under that. And that's what he's going to go do. Like, he's going to go and he's going to have these arguments with people and you're going to say controversial stuff and you're going to have this back and forth. And yet now they want to use that to squash the First Amendment and take away those rights.
What you're saying, like, it's to incite a response to, and meanwhile they claim that the left is the only one, doing any of the violence. But actually studies all show, and there was actually one in the paper like this week, if you saw it too, where all the studies actually show that the right is, of course, who is performing the violence. Of course, they're literally doing it. Who do you think ICE is?
Yeah. And
they use
actually
explosives on our home.
Right. Yeah. So that doesn't count. That's state violence. So we're just not gonna. It's got to be. But it was interesting that when JD Vance was on the podcast, he was saying like, oh, all this is left-wing violence. And right before like they did the podcast was when this government doc was deleted.
Yeah, I saw that they deleted it. Anything that would show numbers against the administration gets deleted.
Yeah. So from the Hill, the Department of Justice quietly removed studies showing right-wing attacks outpaced those by left. So, like, this is what Rebecca Beach, I think is her last name. But yeah, so I'm just going to read through this top part here. The Justice Department quietly removed from its website a study showing that far-right extremists were responsible for the bulk of ideologically motivated deaths, a move that comes as GOP seeks to back claims from President Trump that the radical left poses a greater danger than the right wing. The 2024 study, in which several criminal justice researchers reviewed National Institute of Justice data, found far more instances of deaths credited to right-wing groups. The study was still available on the Justice Department website last week, but a researcher on extremism posted on social media that it had been removed in the days after the killing of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. Since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideologically motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamist extremists, including 227 events that took more than 520 lives. Obviously, this does not count the 9/11 attacks because that was like 2,000 deaths there. In the same period, far-left extremists committed 42 ideologically motivated attacks that took 78 lives. but it's the left. The left is the problem here.
Yeah,
I
until
guess,
they found out that the shooter wasn't a left person.
yeah, that whole thing is just wild. Like, he's not cooperating with them at all. There's so much
Yeah, 'cause
misinformation and
they're trying to
disinformation
seek the
out there.
death penalty on this guy. I
Yeah,
would not cooperate if they're trying to seek the death penalty.
it doesn't matter. Like, is the problem, right? Like, because
Yeah.
all this big push, this was all this started before they caught anyone, right? This was like before anyone was even identified or captured. Like, this blaming of the left, like, occurred immediately. So yeah, I don't know that it matters, like, honestly, like, to them. Like, they've got what they need for this push. And I guess if it doesn't, now we have Laura Loomer saying that there's going to be Al-Qaeda attacks in the United States. So that's, great. Like, glad she's aware of that, I guess.
Please stay tuned for a word from our sponsors.
Are you tired of watching the mainstream media twist the truth? Do you have strong convictions but lack the platform? Don't just sit there. Convert your ideological fortitude into cold, hard capital.
I used to spend hours researching the deep state, and nobody listened. Now, with the Patriot podcasting kit, I just follow the simple provided talking points. I hit record, and the platform guarantees my messages get seen. The money started rolling in immediately.
They want to silence you. They want to crush the spirit of the true American entrepreneur. That's why Veritas Press and I designed this system. We give you the pre-vetted scripts, the optimized search engines, and the tools to bypass the gatekeepers. Your voice is your asset, and this is the only way to ensure it's aligned with profitability.
My kit included an auto-aligned topic generator, a guaranteed distribution platform, and instant access to the daily Narrative Sync Bulletin. You don't have to worry about fact-checking or original thought. They handle the message, and you handle the monetization. It's so easy. I'm earning more money now than I ever did at my corporate job, just by telling the real truth.
Get your Patriot podcasting kit today. Your freedom to profit starts now. Veritas Press. Monetize your truth. It just makes me think back to our conversation the other week about terrorism and how the tactics of counterterrorism are now being turned internal to the United States. But the problem is, who's deciding who is terrorists, right? Like, they're just labeling whoever they want to as terrorist groups. From working counterterrorism in the past, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can go after networks, like big groups, and try to do like group-based effects, or you can go after individuals, high-value targets, right? It's what they call them. So that'd be like, who's the leaders, right? And so I could see them doing both of these things. They've talked about doing both these things. They've talked about going after individuals like Soros, and then they talked about using like RICO charges to be able to go after large groups of people. And ICE now has spy tools that can infect your phone, right? Like, and ICE has broad immunity to basically grab anyone they want to off the streets, just based off of, perception of them. Yeah. So like the government that we have right now is running a counterterrorism war internal to the United States against U.S. citizens and residents.
Yeah, the individual is running it. We saw that video of the interviews for the ICE people. Like, it's not looking good. You've seen Kash Patel. It's looking grim. Just see, it might have been today or yesterday that this thing came out. We're on Truth Social. There's a now deleted Trump Truth Social post that calls to Pam Bondi and says to capture his political opponents in so many words. And that's the exact same thing, like what you're saying. They're just going to end up with on their hard drive some proof that they're part of some loose org called Antifa. And it's like, that's like the plot of 1984. Come on.
Yeah, combine that with Trump's threats to investigate Act Blue, right? The main Democratic fundraising mechanism, right? Like, I mean, there's Win Red, right? Which talk about the deceptive ways that they've stolen money from people over the years. But yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're going to try and go after those groups. And then what happens next? Like if they're ruining people, what I don't know, and no one knows, but what I'm thinking about is, are they going to just try to ruin people to the point where it's, you can't get a job, you can't get any public, anything, right? Like you're basically person non grata, like blacklist people and sue them into the point where they have no power? Or would they actually move to like just start jailing people,
Yeah, it's
which
looking like
one,
the
which
latter,
chapter?
huh?
Yeah.
And where
I
does
mean,
that
that's the
leave the
threat.
next like election cycle? If Act Blue is down, like that's where I put my money for the people that I want to be in office.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if they're at the same time dismantling that, they're getting rid of mail-in voting. They're getting, it's like the plan is for the red to be in office for 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you dismantle an organization? You take away its funding, you take away its ability to message or propagandize or, whatever you want to call it. You take away those two things, you take away its ability to organize, and then you go after the leaders, the people that would be able to try and like grab this group and put it back together, right? And that's exactly what they're attacking, every single one of those
Yeah.
pieces of their opposition. So it's, I mean, I know on this podcast we're not afraid to call the current government of the United States a fascist government. I don't know how anyone else can look at it and say it's not like an authoritarian government. I mean, I don't know, fascist, authoritarians kind of like goes in the same bucket there, but yeah, the actions that they've taken over the last couple of weeks to basically try to find ways to ignore portions of the Constitution against people that they don't like, and then to actively dismantle any dissent or competition to their power using legal methods or illegal ones. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
They're defining legality at this point.
yeah,
Yeah.
they are the
Redefining.
law.
Yeah, they are. They are. Exactly.
Oh.
Brett Kavanaugh is the law.
Yeah, man, that's depressing. I guess we get to test this on October 18th. Another big No Kings rally is supposed to be taking place October 18th. I know there's a ton of organizers or organizations partaking in this one. It seems like it should be a pretty large event, but I will be interested to see what happens because of that. What happens during those protests? Is it anything different? I don't mean like, do we see an effect from the protests happening in a positive way? I mean, are they going to try to crack down on that protest, right? It will be
I wanna
interesting to see.
Yeah, I want to see somebody, what happens to the person who has a funny, relevant Charlie Kirk poster? What's going to happen with that? Are they going to get arrested? Are they going to get attacked? It's going to be an interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to think of all the things that have been happening.
It's too much. The world moves way too quickly now. It's
Yeah.
like my brain is still on like tariffs. What the
Yeah.
fuck? Yeah, and it's like the world's like moved past it and accepted it. Like we shouldn't accept it. Let's go back to month one.
No, we can't do that. And then while we're all focused on Charlie Kirk here in the United States, Israel is just leveling Gaza City, like literally taking out high-rise towers, giving people very little time or warning, and just completely flattening Gaza City, while the rest of the world's attention is turned, right? Like, man, like, yeah, we just talked about what's going on in the U.S., but I mean, there's stuff happening all over.
Yeah,
right
they're
now, for
trying
sure.
to attack. They're trying to like next take out southern Lebanon or something. I read.
They
Is
also
that
struck Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen. They struck them. Well, the Houthis were able to get a strike in Israel off that didn't kill anyone. But yeah, so then they struck Yemen. Did we even talk about how Israel did a strike in Qatar against like the Hamas leadership at the
I don't think
negotiation?
so. I don't think we did talk about that.
So that's crazy. Like, and the reason I say that is because like Qatar has been the place that people go to negotiate in the Middle East. That's where we went when we were negotiating with the Taliban in Trump's first term and, Biden's term. Like, that's where they were meeting, like, was there. So we have people face to face with the Taliban. They have people face to face with Hamas as they're negotiating. And then Israel just tried to assassinate them while they're in this third sovereign country location. Like, what are they doing, man?
Yeah. They're too, I don't know. It's disgusting. I saw today that there was some drone strike in South Lebanon that killed 5 and some U.S. children, it says. But like, I don't know, the positive of today was I did see that the UK and France and some other nations are, recognizing a Palestinian state. And, who knows what that's going to lead to, I guess. But at least there's recognition decades later. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a start, right? Like, it's hard to have that conversation if they're not like a recognized country or right people, right? How do you start that conversation when everyone's just looking at this as a terrorist group? Like there's so many people that just equate Palestinians to Hamas and say like, oh, it's all the same, like it's all a terrorist group or something like that. Where you've got like other countries where terrorist groups have taken over the government and now they're just the government of those countries, right?
Yeah. Of the
You can't
United
even get to
States.
that. I was thinking more Lebanon, but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We could
There's
do that.
internal and external. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, good thing. Good start, to maybe find a way out of where we're at in that scenario there. But yeah, man. I don't know. Brain is too frazzled. There's too many things going on to really focus in on just one. But anything you think we're missing, or anything you think we should talk about a little bit before we?
No, but I'm sure in like half an hour something else is going to happen. We're gonna have missed it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm looking forward to this. There was something today I got on Substack inside the Mamdani election, really interesting. Keeping track of that, midterms.
Yeah.
All these centrist Democrats getting challenged, pretty interesting. So we'll see as that heats up, I guess. We're still a while away.
Definitely. Yeah. And speaking of Mamdani, Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York State, came out and endorsed him. So that's what she should have done when he won the Democratic primary in the first place. But the fact that she, as the leading Democrat of New York State, has come out and now endorsed him, it bodes well for a couple of reasons. Like one, she probably didn't do that without seeing some convincing polling that he's going to do well. I would think. That, but then also just having the top Democrat in the state endorse a Democratic socialist like Mamdani is huge in shifting the window, right? Or at least expanding the window, right? Into something more mainstream where people can actually see what does democratic socialism actually look like when it's employed? Because spoiler alert for the United States, we haven't really done that anywhere. So maybe we could try something new. I guess the other thing I would say, speaking of midterms, definitely have to keep watching the state redistricting, understanding what's going on there. Like I mentioned last time, I have seen that the Postcards group is going to do a campaign in California to try and get the more information out on the redistricting plan that they have and make sure people understand what that is. So there's ways that you can help there if you want to partake in that. For those in the local area, to me, in upstate New York in Adirondack Park, Blake Garabedian is still, I believe he's announced and he's continuing to play. He was going to run in the special election for New York 21 district that didn't happen because Stefanik didn't end up going to be the ambassador to the United Nations. So since she got pulled for that, the special election was canceled, but he has not stopped his campaign and he's planning on running here in the upcoming midterm. So if you're looking for a way to support, and you want to see New York 21 flip blue for the first time in I don't know how long, then maybe look into Blake Garabedian's campaign. I'll be donating and trying to volunteer for that. So now would be a good time to understand what he's all about if you're interested.
That's great.
Yeah.
Flip it. Let's do it.
It'd be great. Oh, man. Any plugs from your side, Arthur? Anything you want to mention before we hop off for the day?
No local incumbents, really. We got a guy who owns a wine shop, though, who's running against Val Hoyle. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's really nice to see the Democratic Socialists rise up in these populous areas. It just shows that, obviously people want progressive laws that put people first. And I don't know. I'm really hopeful of this upcoming midterm election. It's gotta help.
Well, hey, since I don't have a job, since I'm unemployed, I'm gonna be doing more volunteering for that, and hopefully, honestly, we can do some advocacy with the podcast and a little bit of activism here as well. So maybe we'll start trying to organize, through the podcast, get some people together and in our local areas and whatnot. So
yeah.
I think that's it. But so last week we had chapter 3 of Dawn of Everything come out on our Thursday book club. We had too much to cover, so we had to break chapter 3 and 4 into 2 parts. So we'll have chapter 4 coming this week on Thursday. After we've got that dropped, we'll have an update as to when to expect chapters 5 and continuing past that. But that's all I got. You got anything else?
No. I'm loving the book, though. It's really good. I've already began on the next chapters, and it's a great read. And I've never really had like a historical anarchist take on some of these things, which is half of the writers. And so it's really interesting to kind of like unfold some of these myths and historical stories, I guess.
Thanks everybody for listening. And join us on Thursday for part 3, chapter 4 of Dawn of Everything. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening and hanging out with us.
If you enjoy the show, help us spread the word. Leave a rating or review and share it with your friends, family, or anyone you think would get something out of these conversations.
Your ratings, reviews, and shares help this show grow, and the more people listening, the harder it is for propaganda to win.
So until next time,
Stay aware, stay safe, and remember,
Propaganda loves you.